Hey now, it is apple picking season and my grafted apple tree in our backyard has already offered up to me a large quantity of apples that I have juiced and turned into what should be a delicious cider. But I also want to pick some more, clear off that tree, and make a crabapple jelly. So that's what I'm going to start today. These are just some of the apples that I have pulled off of that tree. You can see that we've got some larger ones. I have some that are green, some that are more of this two-tone here. I've also got some of these crab apples that also come in this really bright reddish pink color. Also, I've got some more that are more of this light green color. So I'm going to use all of these today. Now, I used to juice apples using my Breville juicer, and it was one of those ones that you just dump the apples in and it spins around, blitzes them up, throws all of the skins to the side and gives you a bunch of juice, which looked like this even with running through a metal sieve. This was from last year here, and as you can see, there are sort of some chunkies going on here. It did not look quite like that when I made it, but as it sort of settled out, that's what it did. This is also another jar that I've got here. You can see that there is some really nice clear juice in there, but there's also all of this pulpy sediment that made it through regardless of how I tried to skim it in the pot and run it through filters. I could have used cheesecloth, but I mean, that's just a hassle. So what I've gotten into this year is steam juicing with this amazing steam juicer. Now, this is a very different method of juicing that I really like. It comes in this steamer and it has 3 different tiers. So if you're unfamiliar with what these units look like, let me just show you here quickly. So I've got this bottom pot here, and this is where you put a bunch of water. You fill it up with water, and it's got this little cutout here, which allows us to put in the next tier, which is our collection pot. And on the inside here, that just kind of sits like that with that port on it. You can see here that we've got room on the inside. The juice collects in here and steam travels up through that cone. And then we have the top layer here, which is where we put all of our fruit. In this case, it's going to be apples. It's this perforated stainless pot that sits right in here. And then, of course, a tempered steel lid so we can see exactly what is going on in the inside. Now, the concept behind these steam juicers is that the water boils in the bottom, it produces all of this steam, which goes up, it cooks the apples, which then release all of their juice. They drip through that perforated steel tier into this collection tier. It hangs out in here. Once it gets high enough, it can just start to run off through this tube. I do also have a clip here for it that can just pinch this if you're not ready to actually collect it. But I do typically just have this sitting in a bowl so that anything that's coming up is pouring right into there. And then you can also pick it up and tip it and get a larger kind of flow coming out whenever you wish. So that's the steam juicer. Let's get making some juice. Now I'm going to heat up my steam juicer. I do have it filled with water to about a 1/2 inch from the top of that pan. I've got this just over high heat, and we're ready to deal with our apples. So I have these all washed already, and now what I like to do here is chop them up. You could technically core them, but I don't find that there's any need to. Because we're just cooking these apples, we're not worried about these seeds getting into any sort of pulp or anything like that. That actually really has to be filtered out because the steam juicer is going to take care of that for us. And so I'm just taking these apples and breaking them up into small-ish pieces here, especially these larger apples. For the crab apples, smaller ones, I'm just chopping into half, and larger ones, I am quickly quartering, just like this. By breaking them up, it makes it much easier for this juicer to access the interior of the fruit, cook it, and for that juice to come out. So I'm just going to quickly get all of these ready. Now, as I'm cutting up these apples, I'm not worried about stems, I'm not worried about seeds, anything like that. Even some apples with some blemishes on them, I'm completely unconcerned about that. The only ones that I am pulling out and not using are if they're actively like rotting or super mushy or something like that and just don't look like they're good at all. Other than that, it's just a matter of chopping these up, getting them into this bowl, and continuing on until that steamer pot is full. So the way that I run my little 1-person assembly line here is I chop enough apples to fill this bowl and then I get it into the juicer. So I can see some condensation happening up on top of this lid here. However, it's certainly not ready to actually begin juicing. However, it's no problem to start adding the fruit. That bowl there gave me almost half of what I will need to fill this up. Now, this particular juicer is an 11-quart juicer. I'll actually put a link in the video description in case you want to check out its specific dimensions and specifications. There we go. So I'm all nicely filled, and now I just let this do its thing. Once the steamer is actually producing some steam outside of it, I turn the heat down from high to medium. As you can see here, we're about 10 minutes in, and we've got juice already flowing out on its own. So I'm just sitting here and tilting this which is causing a lot more of that juice just to flow out because it's hitting that port line there. Now, when I'm using these larger apples, I find they tend to produce a little bit more chunks that do make it through that perforation on that steamer for some reason. So I'm just going to run this through a middle sieve as I put it into these jars. It's really quite simple. I like using these wide mouth jars because it's far easier to actually hit the target as you're pouring. And one jar good to go. Now, as you're using this, you do want to keep an eye on that water level. And as I can see here, it's down to about a third of that volume remaining. So I just like to have a kettle on hand, boiling, and do this. I find usually with that 10 quarts of apples that I put in here, I typically do have enough to run through one session of apples. However, because I'm going to be using multiples, I do like to just kind of fill this up before it gets too low. Taking a look here, we are this low. I find at this point, there's not a whole lot of juice left. It's really diminishing returns on leaving it like that. So I'm just going to pop this out, dump it into a bowl. This can be composted, and I'm ready to add more apples. The 10 quarts or so of apples that I put in there gave me 2.5 quarts of juice. I find that depending on the apples I'm using, it's anywhere from 2.5 to 3 that I get out of it. And the time has come, it is jelly day. I have those jars in the fridge, just set aside for a few days here, and I'm ready to now actually make it. So, very simple recipe at this point. We're looking for just 2 ingredients. We just need crabapple juice and white table sugar. There's no pectin or anything required for this because there's more than enough in this here juice to make it. So, we are good to go for that. Now, as far as the combination of the two, it's really, really simple. It's just a 1-to-1 ratio. So if you're going by volume, you can just go like 1-to-1. It's really, really easy. Actually, that's what I'm going to be doing here because I've got this 2-quart jar, which is filled right up, and I'm going to be using 2 quarts of white sugar. Alternatively, you could go with 1 pint of juice to 1 pound of sugar. Alternatively, if you want to go metric, that would be 568 milliliters of the crabapple juice to 454 grams of the sugar. But like I said, I'm keeping this really simple here, and I'm just going to be going by volume. Now I'm going to be running 2 pots here, so I'm going to be taking my apple juice. Look how thick that is. It's almost like a syrup. It's practically jelly right now. So I have 2 quarts of that. Now I'm going to add my 2 quarts of white sugar. And I'm going to find my whisk. There we go. Always be prepared, right? Now in stirring this up, it's funny because when you start adding sugar to liquids, you find that this is not going to be necessarily 4 quarts in here because that sugar does dissolve in solution, and something to do with science and making space between the molecules or something like that. A little bit above my pay grade at the moment, but there we go. We've got this mixed up. And I've also filled up my other pot here, again with 2 quarts each of the white sugar and the crabapple juice, and we are ready to heat up. Now I have my pots here over a high heat. We are getting a little bit warmer here, just a little bit of steam when I stir them. And at this point, it's time for my grandma's trick, okay? At the time, she never really explained to me why. She just said I always add a little bit of butter to my jellies as they're cooking. Having looked it up since she passed, I have discovered that the fat in the foam can help break down the proteins that are in the juice and help result in a clearer jelly. Also, it should help produce foam during this boiling process. So, thanks, Grandma. And now as I'm getting nearer to a boil, I am going to reduce that heat a little bit because I don't want to hit a boil while it's right at high heat. It just makes it a little bit more volatile. Oh, and the last of my butter is just melting away, and I'm hitting a boil right now on the first pot. The second pot here is a little bit behind, but that's okay. I'm just keeping an eye on the temperature here. You want this to get up to around 220 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, when I say 220 Fahrenheit, that really depends on your elevation. For me, where I live here, we don't really get much above 212 degrees Fahrenheit. You can see here, yeah, that's where we're maxing out. So we do have a little bit of foam present on here. I'm just going to skim that off. Now, as this has been cooking, there has been a little bit of extra foam that's come up on the top. It is really easy to skim. It's almost kind of like a very thin skin. So if you're just kind of careful and delicate, you can do that. Again, it's not 100% necessary to wind up with a good tasting jelly, but it just kind of helps contribute to the aesthetics of the finished product. Now, when you're starting to think that your jelly might be close to ready, I like to take, actually this is just an aluminum cake pan that I've been keeping in the fridge so it's nice and cold. I'm going to take a tablespoon of this crabapple, well, I guess we'll find out if it's jelly, and I'm gonna pop it back into the fridge and let it cool down. So I have 2 spoons here, and as you can see, they are gelled. Not going anywhere. Perfect. Now we're ready for the last step of cooking this, and that's getting some citric acid in there, so we're going to do that with some lemon juice, and I'm going with a 1/4 cup in each of those batches. Just going to give it a quick whisk here, and then get these off the heat. So now we're actually ready to get these into jars here. I've got these 1 pint or 500 ml mason jars here. I did actually sanitize these. You can just run them in a hot cycle in the dishwasher, or I just use some of my Star San sanitizer spray that I use in all my home brewing, just to start with a relatively sanitized environment. I'm going to use my canning funnel here, which I really love, and just get these topped up. And I'm going to leave these somewhere around 3/4 of an inch headspace, just so we don't run into any issues when they are in the canner. So the time it takes to actually boil this and get it to the point where it is a jelly is really dependent upon your elevation and therefore how hot you can boil this. Because of the lower boiling temperature here, this took me closer to half an hour. I know that some people can make this in closer to 10 minutes. For me, that also means more boil off. Therefore, from both of those pots, I wanted with 8.5 jars like this. If you didn't have to boil as long, you would wind up obviously with more than that. Also, I'm quite aggressive with my skimming. Therefore, I had a little bit more loss than you might if you were just letting it go otherwise. So now I'm going to can these just using the boiling water method here. I'm going to be using my Presto pressure canner in order to do that. So I've just got that water hot and getting these jars in. So once you're done with that boiling water method, you just pull it out, get it on the counter, and let it cool down. So I have done 3 pots worth of that 2-quart recipe here, and I've wound up with 13 of these pint or half-liter jars, and then 1 of these 8-ounce or 250 ml jars. Okay, after we let these cool down overnight, we've got a couple people who are excited to try the jelly. So let's dig into one of these jars. All right, so you can see this is definitely gelatinized here. I'll pull up a spoon like that. Ooh, jelly. All right, who wants a spoon?
Me.
I'm not gonna feed it to you. Oh yeah, there we go. All that delightful tartness of the crab apples. Yeah, and then but then that, yeah, for sure, the balance, right, with all that sugar in there. This is a really nice, beautiful color. It really darkened up here, and like taking a look at some of these jars here, they're super, super clear. Just gorgeous jelly. All right, on some toast?
Yes.
How's it taste on there?
Incredible.
Yeah?
Awesome.
Very nice. So there you are, very simple recipe. With that steam juicer, it was possible to get really, really great quality juice. It didn't have any particulate in it or anything like that. It was just flavorful, rich, lots of pectin going on there, and as you can see, makes incredible jelly with a very simple recipe. So that's crab apple jelly, and until next time, keep it around 11.